Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhav ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, verses 1 through 13. I'm trying to get it on the screen in a second. Oh, okay. Hare Krishna, good morning. Thank you all for coming to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It is a great fortune and honor to be speaking up here today with a good friend, Nitai Gauranga ji, in the presence of so many amazing Vaishnavas. And yeah, we're just waiting to get sorted out with the technical difficulties so that we can start. Okay, let's all chant together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke bhagir bhavati naishiki. Okay, so we're reading this chapter titled Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. And we'll cover verses 1 through 13, like I said. And you could, just a few verses, you could go around the room and start reading. Start with Nate.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, as you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death, so I have answered you.
Okay, this is a long translation. There's 6 verses in this. It's like a purport in itself. Prema, are you ready to read? Oh, yes.
One who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma, or Brihaspati, the learned priest. One who desires powerful sex should worship the heavenly king, Indra. And one who desires good progeny should worship the great progenitors called the Prajapatis. One who desires good fortune should worship Durga Devi, the superintendent of the material world. One desiring to be very powerful should worship fire, and one who aspires only after money should worship the Vasus. One should worship the Rudra incarnation of Lord Shiva if he wants to be a great hero. One who wants a large stock of grains should worship Aditi. One who desires to attain the heavenly planets should worship the sons of Aditi. One who desires the worldly kingdom should worship Vishvadev. And one who wants to be popular with the general mass of population should worship the Sadhya demigod. One who desires a long span of life should worship the demigods known as the Ashwini Kumaras. And a person desiring a strongly built body should worship the earth. One who desires stability in his post should worship the horizon and the earth combined. One who desires to be beautiful should worship the beautiful residents of the Gandharva planet. And one who desires a good wife should worship the Asparas and the Urvashi, society girls of the heavenly kingdom. One who desires domination over others should worship Lord Brahma, the head of the universe. One who desires tangible fame should worship the personality of Godhead, and one who desires a good bank balance should worship the demigod Varuna. desires to be a greatly learned man, he should worship Lord Shiva. And if one desires a good material relation, he should worship the chaste goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva.
So who's your favorite demigod? Shruti has already said. Varuna. What does one worship Kartikeya for? I don't know. It doesn't say exact directly, but it says to worship Lord Shiva, the father of Kartikeya. Okay. Okay, we can continue reading on. Yeah, it's famous.
One should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee for spiritual advancement and knowledge and protection of heredity and advancement of dynasty. One should worship the various demigods.
So finally, something we could relate to.
Fun.
Nothing else.
One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manus. One who desires victory over an enemy should worship the demons, and one who desires sense gratification should worship the moon. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead.
All the different kinds of worshippers of multi-demigods can attain the highest perfection, perfectional benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by the association of the pure devotee of the Lord.
Transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment, and being transcendental, it is approved by authorities. Who could fail to be attracted?
That's where we stop for today. Okay, so quite a section, like with Shukadev Goswami. Can anyone tell me what is the context of Shukadev Goswami telling this to Parikshit? What happened on Friday? What happened on Friday? Or the week before? Okay, Shukadev Goswami is speaking this to Maharaj Parikshit. And what is about to happen with Maharaj Parikshit? He's gonna die. This is probably the first day of the seminar. They just started, so they just reached the second canto. And what were the questions by Maharaj Parikshit? Anyone else? Anyone else? Any other questions that he had?
There were 6, right?
That was by the sages.
Oh, by the
in
sages.
beginning. But he also had a few questions. I think that's the most prominent question, like what is the duty of a man or like woman, like of a human being when they're about to die. And now Shukadev Goswami is answering, like he's such a learned person, he's answering what is the duty of a man and what has he already spoken about. I think in the second chapter we started, like where Shukadev Goswami started speaking. Does anyone remember what methods he has already prescribed?
Use the mic, please.
He talked about meditating on the Virat Swarupa.
Exactly. And I think Gopi was giving class recently, and he mentioned he was asking this question: why do you think like Shukadev Goswami is like telling about all these different things, not focusing on like what we have come here to Krishna house for, like bhakti? Like why is he not going straight to the point? And what were some of the responses given by like all of you in response to that question? Why Shukadev Goswami talking about, even here, why Shukadev Goswami like just mentioning about all the demigods? Why not straight go to Lord Vishnu? Miss Kunti and then Bruce.
I think it's because he's not only talking for the benefit of Maharaj Parikshit, but also for everyone who's going to hear this conversation, and so not everyone will be like at that level, most likely.
Yeah, that's true. And Bruce,
It gives perspective.
can you explain a little more? It's okay. It's fine.
For completeness, there's a system for all these things. And so he's explaining the entire system in its various forms. And for completeness, he's mentioning everything. Because someone may question whether, if they went directly to that, is that all that they know? Or is that the only thing? And then in discussing or realizing that there are other things, there may be some doubt. By including everything, pretty good survey of things, and then coming to the conclusion of devotional service, it shows the, mature, just as it was stated in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. After considering all religious principles in its various forms, etc., what do you consider to be the best? So this is part of that consideration.
It's a wonderful point.
Yeah, one thing that comes up for me is that if he just spoke about bhakti, which is a very elevated stage of spiritual practice, then it makes it less accessible, right? I wonder if there's the risk of sectarianism, of like it isn't accessible for everyone who has different perspectives, but only for those that are at this stage ready to give it all up and just offer love to Krishna.
Like it said, like if one has nothing to desire of material enjoyment, he should come to Lord Vishnu. So what if someone thinks that only for those people one should like perform bhakti?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I appreciate that point about like it seems like it's only a certain group of people can practice this. It could like preach sectarianism, but the Shastras are giving us freedom. It also gives us recommendations like what we should do, but it also lets us know what all we could like choose to do. Like always, it's a choice of like some sort of free will. So here are all the options. So what do you choose to do? I think that's what makes like the soul, like that's something that the soul has, that free will. That's what makes it powerful. If it was just forced upon something, let's say there's a cuisine that we love the most, like some kind of food, but if it's forced, if you're forced to eat that every day, like it's not, like we'll get bored of it and we'll start questioning, is there anything better out there? Maybe I should try something else. But when we know everything that is out there, like all the options, and then we choose like this is what I want to do, that kind of makes us feel empowered also. Like I chose to do this, so we own up. And so for that reason, the Shastras give us the freedom of all the different paths out there, all the different options, all the different demigods that we could go to, but also it doesn't miss out on the central point. The central point is emphasized over and over again, in case someone misses that out. So to discuss that, we could go to the verse for today, which is a very famous verse and is quoted often by Srila Prabhupada. I'd like to recite the Sanskrit.
Okay. Akama sarva kamo va.
Akama sarva kamo va.
Moksha kama udaradi.
Moksha kama udaradi.
Tivrena bhakti yogena.
Tivrena bhakti yogena.
Sojeta purusham para.
Yajeta purusham.
I heard that.
Akama sarva kamo va.
Akama sarva kamo va.
Moksha kama udaradhi.
Moksha kama udaradi.
Tivrena bhakti yogena. Yajeta purusham param.
Yajeta purusham param. Let's chant. Akama sarva kamo va. Moksha kama udaradi. Tivrena bhakti yogena.
Yajeta purusham param. Akama sarva kamo va. Moksha kama udaradi. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Yajeta purusham param. Kama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param kama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi bhakti yogena yajeta purusham akama sarva kamo va
moksha kama udharati tivrena bhakti yogena
yajeta purusham param.
Yeah, try it. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udharati tivrena bhakti yogena
yajeta purusham param. Anyone else?
Shruti, would you like to?
Okay. We'll word together. Akama, one who has transcended all material desires. Sarva Kama, one who has the sum total of material desires. Va, Moksha Kama, one who desires liberation. Udaradhi, with broader intelligence. Tivrena, with great force. Bhakti Yogena, a devotional service to the Lord. Yajeta, should worship. Purusham, the Lord. Param, the supreme whole. Let's read the translation together. Person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. We have 4 paragraphs to read. Someone who hasn't read yet, please read the first paragraph.
Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottama, or the Supreme Personality. It is He only who can award liberation to the impersonalists by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahmajyoti, the bodily rays of the Lord. The Brahmajyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disk. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahmajyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of the different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage.
Okay, let's look at some points mentioned in this paragraph. So first, there were 3 categories of people mentioned in this verse. Does anyone remember what they were? We cited the verse. Akama. Sarvakama. What's the third one? Mokshakama. Yeah, so 3 categories of people are being talked about here. And what is this first paragraph? What is Prabhupada describing the first one right now? Kiara? Talking about liberation. So what? Mokshakama. This is the first. It's surprising. Prabhupada starts from the last one that is mentioned in the verse. It starts about people who desire liberation. And it says that people who want liberation should also worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is the name of Krishna that describes him as the giver of all liberations?
I'll give you a hint. A word for liberation is mukti.
So, Nishad? Mukunda, yeah. So Mukunda means the means the giver of all liberation, or as whose feet all kinds of liberation take shelter. So one who wants liberation should also worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada is pointing out here that because like the impersonalists, they're trying to merge into the Brahma Jyoti, and the Brahma Jyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disk. So they could do all the hard work of trying to meditate on the impersonal, like of the form of the Lord, the rays of the Lord, or they could directly go to the lotus feet of the Lord, and they would get the same result. So it seems like there is two different ways they could get to the same result, but Prabhupada is emphasizing here that it's better to go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I guess we can come to this point about, although there were so many different demigods described of getting the same result, why should we come to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Like, why have we come here to Krishna house? Why is there a Krishna house in the West and not a Durga house or Shiva house? So what is the point of coming to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna? We'll talk more about that.
You know, I'm sorry. I'm thinking like, what is desiring liberation still fall under the category of having desires? You know, like this, is that different than somebody who has all desires?
That one has to think carefully, because sometimes the pure devotee might urge us to just try and go back to Godhead. So in that sense, we can have a kind of more of a transcendental form of liberation desire, which is, you know, it's not just about us and ourselves, but it's about wanting to be with Krishna. It's like a mixture, but I think Prabhupada did urge us to just try and get back to Godhead.
So liberation is not just impersonal liberation. There's 5 kinds of liberation. There's one kind of liberation, and one could have the same form as the Lord. Sarupya, one could go to the same planet of the Lord. Salokya, there's Samipya, one could be an associate of the Lord. Or Sashti is one you get the same opulence as the Lord. And the one which the devotees don't like at all is Sayujya, because that means you merge into the impersonal like aspect, the Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. But even person who want that, they should also come to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Did anyone else have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that it could be, like Gopi was saying, that it could be a little confusing. Yeah, come in. Yeah, come. Welcome. What are your names? Oh, welcome.
We're having a class, please join us.
Please, have a seat. Would you like some water or anything? Would you like some water? No. Okay, sure.
What are your names again? What's your name? Deepak.
Deepak. And your names?
Kiran?
Oh, Kiran and?
Vishal.
Vishal. Oh, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming here.
Okay, so what were we speaking on?
Yeah, I was thinking that we should be careful, right? Because sometimes we read in the scriptures, it says that it doesn't matter to the devotee where he is, right? As long as he's serving the Lord, either in the hellish planets or in the heavenly planets or here or wherever, right? So if we're thinking, let me just get out and I just need to get out of here, and we might miss on the point of like, let me connect with Krishna. So what is more important? Is it to get out, or is it to establish a loving relationship with Krishna? It's just a thought that comes in.
Hare Krishna. I was actually thinking about this recently, and I kind of had like maybe a realization, if it's even bona fide, but I was thinking that the pure devotees, want to go back to Godhead because Krishna wants them to go back to Godhead, because Krishna wants them to come back home. It's like they just want to serve Krishna. So if Krishna wants them here, they'll be here. But they want to go back to Godhead, and they want all of us to go back to Godhead because they want Krishna to be pleased. And that's what pleases Krishna, is when his children come back home to him.
So just like to quickly summarize what you like for like guests who joined us. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, this scripture, like this, like Bhagavad Gita. And here we are reading a section where the speaker is speaking about how there's different ways, different people someone could worship. Like there's different demigods, Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu. Vishnu is not a demigod, but Durga and all these other people. But the summary of his understanding, this is a great learned scholar who is speaking. He's saying that a person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desires, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead, who is known as Krishna. And so we're talking today about why should one worship the personality of Godhead. You guys, like, you have come here to Krishna house to offer your respects and worship to Krishna. So we're trying to like understand from everyone's experience, why should we worship Krishna? Why should we worship Supreme Personality of Godhead? Gopal?
Yeah, Prabhupada emphasized going back to Godhead, but it's described for a pure devotee, he'll take one of the 4 kinds of liberation if it increases his devotional service. If not, then it doesn't matter.
The central point being like how do we come closer to Krishna, personal connection. Jonathan?
Maybe judging by the translation, because it's the intelligent thing to do, the broader intelligent thing to do.
Okay.
But I feel like I've heard Kalakanta say this a lot, like the prayer, like be of service lifetime after lifetime, and I think it's just more of a whole form of surrender, because when you're doing it for like I want to go kick it with you in the spiritual world because this world sucks, it's not as it's like a deeper form of surrender when you're like, I'll do whatever you want for as long as you want me to.
Yeah. This is verse Narayana Parasar Vinakotashna Bibhyati Swarga Pavarga Narakeshu Apithalyartha Darshana. The devotee sees like all situations of life as the same, because no matter what the external surroundings are, internally he is connected with Krishna. So lifetime after lifetime could also mean that like being the spiritual and serving him, not just because I want to get away from other people. Like once you are with your beloved, like with Krishna, it doesn't matter where you are. Like it's that connection is what like brings you the happiness.
I think we can go on to the next paragraph.
Yes, let's read on. For anyone else, or Gopi?
Akama is one who has no material desire. A living being, naturally being a part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, Purusham Purnam, has as his natural function to serve the Supreme Being, just as the parts and parcels of the body or the limbs of the body are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajanya Parama Purusha Sukhamatra Sva Sukhatvam in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of a living being in the material world, and such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc., by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Rajabhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of the akama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world.
So there's a nice distinction here made between akama and kama. Like kama meaning when we desire something for our own self, like something selfish, and akama, which still akama still means like you have desires. Like Prabhupada said that it's not that any living being could be completely free of desire. Everyone desires something. But akama is that stage where you don't desire everything for yourself. Like Prabhupada points out that the mood of philanthropism, like altruism, like helping others, people naturally have that like tendency, like they realize that if I just take everything for myself, I'm not going to be happy. If I make someone else happy, people around me happy, that gives me more satisfaction. So that is a partial like form of akama, like not desiring things for just oneself. That's why people give so much to charity. Like people who make like the most wealthiest people, they realize that if they keep all the money for themselves, like they won't be happy. So they donate money to charity and they feel some satisfaction. But the highest form of akama is trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Because when Krishna is pleased, like Prabhupada was saying, every living entity is also pleased. If you're worshipping Krishna, and we can also engage in philanthropy and altruism by worshipping Krishna. We can in India, there's this program, I think it's other parts of the world also, called Food for Life, where people like distribute like prasadam or food to everyone. But the only difference is that this food has been offered to Lord. So Krishna is pleased, and then when that remnants is shared with everyone gets spiritual benefit as well as material benefit. So we can still take part in this like philanthropic spirit, but when we connect that to Krishna, that's the highest like offering of that desire.
Yeah, you said it all. Yeah, one thought that I had is that Prabhupada uses this word intuition. And so I went online to search the definition of intuition. And the definition of intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. So we can see that this intuition of the living beings is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of a living being in the material world. And such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, and so on. So we don't even have to think about it. We don't even have to consciously consider desires. They're just going to be there anyway, right? By intuition. Like we are pleasure-seeking entities, right? Eternally. So we're always going to look for pleasure. We're always going to look for some kind of enjoyment. We're always going to have desires, right? So this akama, I find it very interesting, and there's this example of is anybody aware with like hacking? Anybody know a little bit about hacking websites and stuff like this? Okay, recently I learned, hear me out. Recently I learned that there's a way to hack websites without shutting them down, which means that it looks like they're up and running even to the owner, right? My website, it's up, like, why am I not making any sales? So what's done is, it's really interesting. It's, imagine this door, right? Being wide open, and then somebody walking through, 1, 2, maybe 20 people can walk in one after another very easily, no problem. Now imagine 500 people trying to get in through that door at the same time. So what these hackers do is, that they create these kind of ghost users to go in and flood a website. So it's the people that actually want the product that can't access it. They can't, because there's so much activity going on there that you can't even refresh the page. It just really floods the website. So this akama, I'm going to bring it back to akama. So is that we have desires, right? Right? If we flood our consciousness with Krishna consciousness, those actual users or those actual material desires will still be there, right? But flooding our consciousness with Krishna consciousness is going to block the access to those material desires. So one way that we can hack our consciousness is by flooding it with bhakti, flooding with shravanam, with hearing, with kirtan, right? And in this way, it'll, like me and Nitai were talking, it's like, have you ever had such a busy day where you're running a program, you're doing your service, you're studying, you're doing everything, and then you look back and it's like, oh, well, I only spent like 10 minutes on Instagram. You know, like just 10 minutes, and my whole day was filled with association, with hearing, with service, with kirtan. While we do service, while we work, we listen to kirtan, we listen to classes, you know? So yeah, this thing of not having desire, it's not possible. We're always gonna have desire. But if we start flooding our consciousness with Krishna consciousness, then our desires will become spiritual, because Krishna is the most pure, and when we come in contact with the most pure, we become purified. So yeah,
That's a wonderful realization, right? Like when I heard this, like, oh, it makes so much sense. I also appreciate the point that although the website is hacked, like it seems like it's running up and fine running. So if we are completely Krishna consciousness, it doesn't mean that we're going to be like good for nothings in the material world. Like it's still like we are functioning as proper like individuals, and the society thinks that like it's a person, he has a family, he has a job, he's doing everything. They think that everything is good, but internally our desires have been purified. So no one can complain. Like we are happy that like we are like functioning, we are actually serving our true desire, and to the outside, to the society, we're also doing like our duties. So it appears that everything is good, and that's such a wonderful way, nice way of hacking.
Yeah, I was thinking that we saw this laundry list of desires in the verse before. You know, if you have a desire for this, if you have a desire for that, if you have a desire for this thing, right? And we can bring all those desires to Krishna. You know, we don't necessarily need to like go around like stretching ourselves thin, like doing 8 different pujas to 8 different beings. You know what I mean? When we just go to the source, you know, and we will have our desire fulfilled, whether it's by getting the thing we want or by not getting it later on. There's been so many times that I look back and I'm like, oh, thank God that didn't work out. I wanted this thing so bad. I remember, man, I've had my desire fulfilled and thought, damn, why did I do that? I think Shruti likes this example. One time I had some money saved up and I was like, I'm gonna buy a brand new Audi truck and I'm gonna flex. Like, I'm really gonna love this. And then I got it, and then I got to do the first brake job, and it was like thousands of dollars, and I was like, oh no, why did I want this? And as I've come to take up this chanting, this practice of being around devotees and things, I still have desires of like, dang, the new Range Rover is out, you know? but now I'm like, Krishna, should I get it? Should I not get it? And then later on, I read, oh yeah, Range Rover blew up. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, Krishna. Looking back, like, oh, you purified it by not letting me have it, or by letting me have it. But either way, we just come in contact with this holy name, we become purified.
This is analogy given that if you, like, let's say there's a big corporation, big corporate ladder, and there's different divisions in the corporate system. There's the finance department, the HR department. There could be many such examples. I've never worked, so I cannot name anymore. Anyways, but if you want something done, you could go to that particular department, like ask that particular group of people. Like in India, it happens. Like there's so many different government departments. You go to one officer, he's like, this is not my job. Go to that person. You go to him, like, this is not exactly my job. This is how it's different. So you have to go to that person. So you could be like, I've seen people run around so much and still not get their work done. But imagine you were good friends with the person who owns the corporation. Or in India, like, it's a common saying, Chacha hamare vidhayak hain. Like, My uncle is a political leader, and that brings a lot of power, like in India. So if you are friends with someone who has that power, you don't have to go running around all these different things. You can just approach that person and they'll get your work done. Unless, let's say, a CEO actually or owner of a company actually says that have this place, these different divisions, so why don't you go to them? Like, why are you coming to me for everything? But in our case, Krishna actually says that come to me, like surrender unto me, like don't go to all these different demigods. If you want, if you can, then just come to me. So it makes perfect sense that if you have any kind of desires, let's take them to Krishna, and we'll also get purified of, you might get purified of those desires, but also the best thing will be that we'll be friends with Krishna, we'll have a personal connection with Krishna. And that is, we want it or not, that's the best thing that could happen to us.
Yeah. Does anybody have any points they'd like to share on what we just spoke about? Any of our new guests? You have any thoughts?
Expound on that analogy.
Yeah, okay. So being friends with the big boss, yeah, it's great. It's nice to be friends with the big boss. It's also really good to be friends with the boss's secretary, because the big boss may be traveling all the time, and even though we're friends, we may not be able to access him, right? He might be sailing across the sea, and we may not be in contact with him for months, right? But the secretary he could have told the secretary, only come to me for emergencies, right? So if we're cool with the secretary and we say, hey, I have an emergency, even if we have an emergency, we may not even be able to access him. But through the secretary, through the representative of this very powerful personality, we can access him also very easily. And Krishna is so kind that not only does he provide the representative, but he sends this representative throughout all the universes to look for us, to come get us, because he knows our desire more than we know our desires, right? And this is one of the things that came up for me when we were talking about why is Vyasadeva talking about all these things, or why is Sukadeva Goswami talking about all these things? And it's because Krishna is so accessible. He's so kind. He wants everybody to come back to him. He wants everybody to have a relationship with him. And he doesn't just limit it to somebody who is, oh yeah, I declare myself devotee. No, it's everybody and anybody. And the process that he gives is one that elevates us to that point. So wherever we're at, with whatever desires that we have, we just bring them forward to Krishna. We just bring them to Krishna, whatever they are. As we saw the list, that whole list, 3 times loaded more than what we saw. We just bring it to him, and ultimately, the demigods that are fulfilling all these desires, right? They're only getting their power from Krishna, right? So why take that extra step when we can go directly to him with all these desires, actually?
Also, in terms of establishing a relationship with Krishna, it's also important to we're reestablishing our relationship, or uncovering really that relationship. With the Devatas, we don't have an eternal relationship. All the entities that were mentioned in there, we don't have an eternal relationship with them. We have an intimate, eternal relationship with Krishna. So it's a different category of what we're attempting to do, rather in the course of approaching Krishna, is to revive that relationship rather than to establish a relationship. So just like we have our magazine Back to Godhead, so we're going back to a situation of intimate connection with Krishna. Whereas the other things, which are acknowledged in the verse and purport, they're there, but they're concomitant with existence within the material world.
that makes me think about let's say we are traveling, and when we have a layover and we staying at a hotel for some days, and we could do a lot of shopping just to make that hotel room like look very good, or our situation for 2 days look very good. But when we think about how to get home like as soon as possible, like at home all these facilities are already there. We can all like always be comfortable at our home if you have like a safe home. So it makes so much more sense, because we have an eternal home, to try to go back there instead of trying to make this temporarily like hotel room like as good as possible with, and asking the janitor there to like clean it every day and try to maintain the hotel room so very nicely, but eventually we have to leave it. So we might have to stay there for a few days, but in our mind we should always like be thinking about home, like how could we get home.
Yeah. Jonathan, please.
Yeah, Jesus also preached detachment from material treasures. He said, store not treasures up that moth and rust destroy, but those that are eternal. And that he also had said that my Father has many mansions, and I go before you to prepare a room for you. And just kind of let us know that like we have a place in heaven if we like love God and, you know, do our best to have good deeds in humanity. But yeah, I was wondering, like, aren't there some different ways that like people approach Krishna for a relationship? Because I know this whole passage is like about it kind of sounds like to me it's like, okay, if you want to be free from material desire, if you want full material desire, if you want liberation, if you don't want liberation, whatever, just worship Krishna.
Yes.
That's kind of what it seems like. It's just like everybody should do it. So like, how do you approach him?
You just come as you are, with whatever you have, whatever baggage you have, whatever desires you have, whatever detachments you have. Just come as you are, because the process is perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up. Show up, take part of the process, and watch it work on you. And all we have to do is just look back 5 months from where we are right now. What were our desires? What were we chasing? You know, what are we chasing now? Is the same? Have I taken up this process sincerely? Does anybody know the title of this chapter?
Change of heart, devotional service.
The change of heart, right? And that's what happens when we take up this practice authentically, very raw as we are, right? So we just bring that and watch the magic work. And that reminds me of a song that I really like. I want to play it really quickly. It's going to be like less than a minute. It's very sweet, and it's by a devotee. Shruti, I know you might be worried. So he's just saying surrender. Just come as you are. You know, yeah, the smile's gonna come and go, things will come and go, things will change. Whatever situation you're in, just surrender. Just come as you are, which is your question. You know, like whatever you got, just give it. Some people can offer Krishna mansions and gold and whatever it is, and some people can just offer a little bit of water, a leaf, a fruit, a flower, right? He makes himself so accessible that you can just give whatever you can. And he does it in such a way that he's accessible throughout all the seasons, right? In the winter, there will be water. There may not be flowers, there may not be fruit because it's so cold. So there will be water, or at least there'll be leaves, right? And then in the spring, right, then there will be flowers and fruits, and in the summer there'll be water. It's like in all the seasons, he makes himself accessible. All we have to do is just show up.
Jonathan asked, how do we come to Krishna? How to approach him? We can connect to him by chanting his names, like Hare Krishna, the Hare Krishna mantra. We could come to him by knowing about him from his devotees, from his representatives, and that's just very easy. It's very easy to know about Krishna. Prema, and Radhika.
Hare Krishna. I like to, when I first heard the verse, I also thought of this one. I really like this verse. Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarik aksham sabhaya bhyantara suchi. And this verse is chanted before fire yagyas, but we can always remember the translation is purified or unpurified, and sometimes I hear even having passed through all conditions of life, whatever you've been through, whatever state you've been in, if you just remember the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, you're completely pure internally and externally. So I really like to remember that.
That's a very beautiful verse. Thank you.
Radhika? Sorry.
So we're talking about how no matter what desire we have, or if we have no desire, we should approach Krishna. So it makes it seem like Krishna will fulfill all our desires, and he has the capacity, of course, to fulfill all our desires. Then, there's also verses that say if Krishna really favors someone, he takes everything away. So he's not going to necessarily fulfill all desires. So what should we think? How can we take that?
And the qualifying words in this are Krishna fulfills all desires and Krishna takes everything away. The all and everything, that's what we have to understand what that means. Krishna will fulfill a desire if he thinks it's good for us. Kartikeya was saying, his desires have been fulfilled either by getting what he wanted or by not getting it. And from not getting it, he learned the lesson of not wanting that again. So Krishna could fulfill a desire or not based on if he thinks it's good for us or not. But irrespective of that, the least we could do is tell him our desires. If you're a little kid and we don't have power to get toys for ourselves, we can ask our dad. Our dad can get us a toy, or if we have too many toys, he might not get us a toy. But what is in our power is approaching our dad for that. And would you want to speak on what is meant by Krishna takes everything away?
Maybe not that part, but something else.
Okay, then I'll just quickly say that Krishna takes everything away. That means Krishna takes everything which is not good for us again. Krishna gives us what is good for us and takes the desires or the aspects which are not good for us. So he's very balanced in his approach to us.
Yeah, in the Gita, he says, Yayatam Prapadyante, where he says, just whichever way you come to me, I reciprocate accordingly, right? So before we take up this practice of bhakti, he is fulfilling all desires as Paramatma in the heart. We have a desire, he fulfills he makes a situation for us to be able to do that, right? And but when we take up this practice, it is a little different because now he's more involved. Now he's oh, okay, you want this, but now you've decided, you've made a conscious decision to come closer to me because you've taken up this practice. So I'm not going to give you something that's going to make you go away from me. Whereas before, he'll give you something that will make you go as far away as you want to go away from him. So anyway, that's just what I thought. I hope that's
And with quick comment by Amrita. Amrita never speaks, so we have to hear from
I
her.
was thinking that in that verse where he says he takes everything away, he says that's a very special mercy that not everybody gets. Actually, Krishna always gives. Even when we come to this path of bhakti, we're hankering for pure devotional service, but Krishna gives us so many material things to see if we actually even want pure devotional service. Right? Krishna's like, you want so many things, the whole laundry list that you mentioned. Krishna gives us all of that, but he doesn't give us this pure devotional service. But to those who he's really, to those who continue to hanker after the pure devotional service, then he gives them that special mercy and he takes all of these other things away. So it's like, I think in that verse it says a special kind of mercy that not everybody gets.
It's a wonderful point, and we can have to think about and reflect on this for the rest of the day. Haribol. Bhagavatam ki.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Chai. Kalakan Prabhu was supposed to give class today. It's not here, but in his remembrance, we'll sing this. God is full of ignorance, profitless in every sense, throws the mercy of death and birth. Of the senses lusty thirst rarely can be overcome, while the soul is struggling on this earth. But so merciful, he helps us regain control, leaving remnants after he has died. Let us take what he has left, calling loudly, feeling blessed. Radha Krishna, Chaitanya Nitai, Chanimai, Chanitai, Srila Prabhupada Jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram.